Good evening and welcome to Be Inspired with Pepe Minambo. Tonight I'm so excited because I'll be taking you on a journey, a new series around this amazing and interesting topic, cultivating a growth mindset. As I always say, there are only two kinds of mindsets in this world. Number one, people with fixed mindset, and number two, people with a growth mindset. And recently, I came across a revelation that says 98% of the world population live in a world that has been created by 2% of the world population. So 2% of the world population defines and decides on the kind of life the other 98% of the world population should be living. By the way, they make all the decisions about policies. They design the brands that the 98% of people wear. They build the roads that every other person uses. They're the ones who even make the cars that the rest of us drives. The 2% are the ones that employs the 98%. So 98% of the world population live in a world that the 2% of the world population has created. So in life, you either belong to one of these two circles. Either you are part of the 2% of the people in this world, or you are part of the 98% of the people in this world. Now just imagine even how countries are run, how companies are run. You look at it in this way, that there is a 2% of the people making decisions all the time for the 98% of the rest of the people within the institution or within the territory or within whichever circumstances. So, having a growth mindset is daring to belong to the 2% of the world population that creates, that design, that plan, and that influence the other 98% of the world population. You see, in the 98% of the world population, you have people who are timid, people who are fearful, people who do not believe in themselves, people with intelligence and IQ and pedigree, but they've settled for so far less, people punching below their belt. So those are the guys that belongs into the 98% of the world population. But then you have these 2%. These are the thinkers. These are the dreamers. These are people that rule the world through imagination. They believe in the law of attraction. They believe in the law of accumulation, of incremental improvement. They control the laws of growth because they have the whys when the other 98% is living their life through the hows and the whats. As I once said here, that he who knows the how will always have a job. But unfortunately, they will always work for he who knows the why. So 98% of the world population is living around the hows and the whats. But you have this 2% that controls the whys. They ask the question, why? While the others follow processes, regulations, and frameworks created for them by the 2%. Sit back and think tonight, in which world do you belong? The 2% or the 98%? Have you settled for far less, or are you daring, what they call daredevils, captains of moonshots, unconventional mavericks that belongs in the 2%? Tonight, we want to talk about how do you cross from the 98% that lives in a world created by the 2% to the 2% that creates the world that the 98% lives in. There's been a lot of repetition, but it's a thought-provoking conversation for you to sit back and figure out in which world you belong and where are you living your life. The 2% mindset. And I'd like us to break down how the 2% mindset looks like. Think about designers of clothes, the brands that people love wearing, or designers of watches, or designers of shoes, or designers of handbags. If you look at the people that designs and brand these items, and sometimes they can't even make 2% of the world population, but then they've got 98% of the world population wearing these brands, going for these attires and apparels. That's what I mean by the 2% mindset. It is a very insignificant amount. It's a very insignificant number of people that come up with unique value proposition that causes the rest of the world to comply and to align. Now, when big games are happening in the Premier League over the weekend, you have hundreds of millions of people, if not billions of people, stuck on their television, watching, for example, Man City playing Liverpool. How many people are on the pitch? About 22 of them. The 22 people playing with the two coaches, those are 24. If you add the technical bench, give and take, you don't have 40 actors on the pitch, on play. But the 40 actors causes a storm of hundreds of millions, if not billions of people canceling programs and sticking on sofas to watch the 90-minute game. Now you start understanding the 2% mindsets that control the other 98% of the world population. That's just in the football game. You may have a musician with a blockbuster song, a song that goes viral, and you may have an entire country jumping, dancing, singing on the chorus of that song, and everybody contributing a little bit to making that person a mega success for years, if not for generations. Because the person found their forte and brought some value proposition to the rest of the country or the region or the world, and everybody aligns, everybody complies. Think about blockbuster movies acted by about 30 to 40 and 50 people, but shown in thousands of cinema halls around the world, and having families and schools and communities and companies and couples talk about for months and on. I say, that's what I mean by the 2% of the world population that controls the other 98% of the world population. In a scenario in a country, you'll have suppliers of either food or commodities or any other product that is so essential to human living. And the population of the people that supplies will be a very insignificant population, but whatever they supply is used by the rest of the population. That's what I mean by the 2% mindset. So, the question to all of us will be, am I willing to live my life under terms and conditions of the 2% of the world population, or I'm going to dream, to dare, to venture, cross boundaries, and belongs to the 2% mindset community? So the choice is yours. Look at jobs. Look at the job markets. If you tell me there are maybe 12 million people with formal jobs in the country, you'll be surprised. The 12 million people with formal jobs are employed by what percentage of the population in the country? So I would say that is the 2% mindset. If we live in a credit economy where everybody is thriving through credit, you'll be surprised who gives credit and what percentage of the population has the financial muscles to offer credit to the rest of the population. But then the great question is, how did they belong to the 2%? What happened to them to be part of this exclusive family of the 2% mindset. This is a phenomenon that doesn't just happen in Uganda, in Africa, in Australia, in America, or in Europe. It's a global phenomenon. It's a phenomenon that has been here for centuries. That 2% of the world population control the other 98% of the world population. They make music for them. They create games for them. They produce movies for them. They supply food for them. They grow things for them. And they influence their mindsets. So, in terms of growth, I want to challenge you as a viewer to sit back and say, am I part of the 2% or am I part of the 98%? How do you know you are part of the 98%? Is when there is so much in you, but you've settled for so less. When you are timid, when you are fearful, when you see things around, when you travel or around where you stay or you live, and something in your belly says, that's you, that's where you belong. It could have been you, but you don't have the guts to get up and pursue your dreams and follow your hearts. In fact, in my 10th book, Beyond Limits, I say, don't be afraid to be different. Now, the 2% mindset people are not afraid to be different. They don't conform. They are what Steve Jobs called the square peg in a round hole. They don't fit. They are misfits. They are rebels. They are unconventional. They are mavericks. When everybody says why, they say why not. They dare devils. They push boundaries. They redefine convention. They live life without limits. They live life worth living. In my book, I say, define your limits, doubt them, and go beyond them. Be aware of your limits. Be aware of your vulnerability, what you can and what you can't. But then be bold enough to challenge your vulnerabilities and your limits and dare go beyond them. And I say again, the 2% mindset color outside the lines. You see, life comes in boundaries or with boundaries. It tells us what we can, what we can't. It tells us with the kind of education you have, this how much you can. With the kind of background you have, this is how far you can. With the kind of money you have, this is what you can. With the kind of people you know, this is how far you can go. But I've come to realize that the 2%, they don't stop within the boundaries. They go beyond the boundaries and they color the boundaries. The 2% mindset, ladies and gentlemen, they disrupt the status quo. They disrupt the status quo. They challenge conventional wisdom and live their dreams. As I say in my book, I say the greatest courage in this world is not the courage to fight a lion or to wrestle an alligator. But the greatest courage in this world is the courage to follow your heart. You know, many things will attract your eyes, but few things will conquer your heart. Follow your hearts. You know, sometimes your mind has limitations. Your mind has hesitation. Your mind knows limits, but your heart knows no limitation and knows no limits. To live a life without limits is living a life where you challenge convention, which is a life worth living. So today or tonight, my challenge to all of us was, why is there this 2% mindset people making all the rules and regulations and products and music and fashion and lifestyles on their terms and conditions for the rest of the world, which is the 98% mindsets? Thank you. After the break, we'll continue with the conversation.